Hi, it's Julie at Love's Beginning with a talk called World as Conduit for Spirit. And first, I want to acknowledge I feel like this is a time for so many people I know and myself for really deep cleansing. I know I always say that. When is it not that time? But personal examples, personal thoughts of rage, of hatred, of lack, bitterness, like the bitterness of the heart, are being unearthed from the depths, from the basement, just and floating up so I can let them go. Just remember, and I know it's hard to remember when you're just, seems like you're hit hard by bitterness or hatred or rage, and it feels so real, and it seems like there are real, actual causes for it in the world. Remember, you're not alone. And remember, the comparative nature of what we see is very, very, very tricky. What we see out there. You see people who are happy. You see people who are unhappy. You see all the opposites out there. So we would pick somebody on one side of the opposite maybe and rage at them. Maybe they have, in thought, or maybe actually in using your voice or your body to express. But first it's in thought. You catch the thoughts. And so it's the comparative nature of what we seem to see out there. We pick something out there and we think it's the reason or it's the focus for our current version of bitterness, hatred, rage. Of course it isn't. But remember that it isn't the actuality, what we're seeing on the surface of people, relatively happy or unhappy people, for example. It isn't the actuality of what they are. And once we remember the actuality of what we are and sit with that, that's the actuality of what we are, then we're not fooled by that surface anymore. That surface is very, very, very tricky, and we don't have to judge or analyze anybody's surface. We do end up thanking all the beings because they're always showing us the reflection of what we're holding in our hearts, in our minds, what we're holding to block what's truly helpful to everybody. So remember, in actuality, we're all together, we're equal. It doesn't mean we have to pull people down to be equally miserable with us. It does mean it's a service when we uncover the miserable thoughts we've been suppressing and basing our lives on, and we allow them to float up, we let them go. It doesn't mean we're doing a service for everybody. You can definitely look at it that way. It's just tricky. It's a tricky and sort of delicate time. And I just want to acknowledge that, but also acknowledge the great service that you're doing when you allow the thoughts to surface, when you allow yourself to be set straight about all the nonsense ego's telling you, when you allow yourself to find the actual gratitude. Ego's version of gratitude will leave you unequal with some sort of leader or serving some sort of follower in a way the ego says is good for you. Ego would leave you in an inequality. So if you're feeling ego's version of gratitude, which is, I am not your equal fully, presently, right now, then it's another trick. And we get, when we make feeling primary, which we have to uncover these thoughts and let them float up, we start to be able to tell the difference. Oh, that's not true gratitude. That's some sort of like panting after and wanting your attention. That's not real gratitude. If we don't have in view our full equality with all beings, where we're neither leader nor follower, although the roles might look that way, but it's not up to us. It's none of our business. Then we know how that feels. It hurts. It hurts to lose sight that your innocence is everyone's innocence and there aren't any exceptions. It always hurts, and it hurts massively. So that's what we're here to remember, and to let all of that hurt go. To let it go, we have to let it surface. We have to hear what ego's been telling us. We have to recognize they aren't our actual thoughts, and they don't represent the actuality of what anyone else out there is only a false surface. So good work. keep out. You almost want to say fighting the good fight, but it's not a fight. It feels like a fight as I'm attached to bitter thoughts, hateful thoughts, angry thoughts. It feels like a fight, but when I find my foundation again, then I see that it's only my tiniest willingness to be restored to sanity that gets taken care of for me. My tiniest willingness to be restored to sanity, Spirit takes care of the rest. All I have to do is to stop ranting and raving and tune into and be centered in my tiniest willingness to be led by all of us collectively, what we all are. Not one of us separate. That feels wrong. But all of us, trusting all of us, and how that can come through everything. So let's see. The first thing I was given was the only thing you can judge is how you feel. Let that sink in. Yes, because whenever I'm miserable, I fully believe that there's something else I can judge, and judge accurately. Think of all the things we see and experience in this world of illusion and how we believe we can judge them positively or negatively. Look at all of that complexity. And now remember, the only thing I can judge is how I feel. If I remember that, I can enter the teaching that's available for me in this moment. If I remember that, my willingness is right here for me. But if I go off onto a pathway of believing I can judge anything at all, I'm lost, and I have to find my way back home again to my willingness to let myself, to allow Spirit to show me everything as it truly is, which is never, ever, ever its surface. Because as everything, everyone, as they truly are, it's all the same, all the same. Okay, you have a habitual posture of tensing up to defend against a world. I, as the separate personal self, sure do. I can feel that all day long, feel how I use it as a defense. I've never felt it more keenly than I do right now. So that's good, to be able to go down through the layers and let them go, and to be able to know it's always my issue. It's not anybody else's issue. It's my issue. To feel that feeling of attempting to defend against a world, and to come into a moment of sanity and find the thought I'm believing. My daughter came to me, and it seems like she might have a dental issue. I don't know yet. So I felt fear. And there's that having to defend against a world, right? That, what do I do now? What do I do about this? Did I do wrong? Did she do wrong? Did somebody do wrong? Why is this happening? All of these thoughts ego can send. Instead of, in this moment, what do I actually have to defend against? Nothing. What is here for me right now? Guidance. But I have to be quiet to notice, what's the next obvious step to take? What should I do? What should I say? I have to find that inner quiet to be able to hear that. Okay, Spirit is here to use the world you perceive as a conduit to deliver reflections of your actual and shared self to you. Yes, it is. So that's what any situation is for. We look at the successive situations we find ourselves in. The purpose of each one is that what our actual and shared self is can be reflected back to us in everything and everyone without exception. And where I'm not allowing it, I feel that. That's the purpose of feeling. That's where I'm not allowing a reflection of our actual and shared self to be bounced back at me. And that means I'm holding on to thought from ego, and I think it's meaningful, and I think it's valuable. When's the moment when I can discover it? Right now. And when I can let it go? Right now. So that helps. The lesson that I'm remembering today from A Course in Miracles is, I don't know if I have the wording exactly right, but something along the lines of, there is a function God would have me fill, and it seems like this is the function. I don't try to define it, I just try to stay open to there is a function, but what does it feel like today? It feels like noticing when I'm not feeling good, same thing I always say, finding the thought, acknowledging it isn't real, letting it be swept away, and moving forward, and letting ourselves be guided. That feels like the function. It's a very simple function. It's a very equal function. It's a function any of us can step into, and we don't need to worry about anybody else stepping into their function or not. What I can remember is that I'm willing to see everybody and everything as they truly are, and not as how ego would have me see them. Okay, you can either contract around unreal pain, yeah, which I've been doing a lot of, or you can recognize love, which is always here and real. You know by how you feel. It rhymes. When the pain comes up, pain itself is unreal, which you don't want to think about in the moment that it seems so real. But from a quiet moment, you can look at it, and this isn't for us to tell others, it's for us to accept the teaching of ourselves. So that's what I'm looking at here. I can either contract around unreal pain, and then that makes the unreal bigger and more complex and more real in my sight. Or relax, ask what there is to be seen here, ask what there is to be released here, ask to see everybody and everything as they actually are, not how ego is showing them to me. I can recognize love, which is always here and real. The surfaces have been constructed by ego. So I need to learn to ignore the surface and to call to love and to trust love, not the surface and my analysis of the surface and my memory of what I think the surface means. This is more important than ever. Okay, it's okay if you feel intense emotional and physical pain, because as you do, you're being shown what you use to block spirit's flow, believing that holding on to this will keep you safer. And yeah, it is okay if I feel intense emotional and physical pain. I've been feeling a lot of it lately because, how do I want to say this? My definition of guidance goes deeper as I let what I've been hiding go. Whatever I've been hiding, these bitter thoughts, these angry thoughts, these thoughts of hatred, whatever I've been hiding, I've been using that to guide my life, my speech, my actions, my perceptions, everything I experience. So of course I want to let that go as I discover it. And as we think there's something in the world that would make us feel angry or bitter, or it's not. It's always what's in my basement that I'm holding on to, and that those bitter thoughts, those angry thoughts, those hateful thoughts are actually running everything, running my perception of everything, running my experience of everything. So then looked at that way, it becomes very obvious to find the thoughts and let them sit in the light and let them dissolve, and to recognize we don't need those thoughts guiding us anymore. And I think we walk through this process as hypocrites, because as we discover, this is how it goes, we're still operating at that old level. And we can feel it, but then we learn to let it go. And then it seems like there's another level deeper, and we start to get it. Oh, this is how it is. This is how it can be. But we're still operating at that old level, so we're kind of hypocrites as we're learning. So I would say, don't worry about trying to analyze yourself, call yourself a hypocrite, say you're not. I mean, it's the same mechanism of judgment. It's the same trap. All the ego traps are. So Don't worry. Don't worry about it. The important thing is noticing how we feel, noticing what we're thinking, being willing to let it go, being willing to see everyone and everything as the innocence they are. This is where I find my peace, when I can get back to that. This is where I find my peace, and this is where my motivation to let go of thoughts that are not true increases. So, wishing you increasing motivation and happiness and peace and happy healing.